What happens when one of Britain's most beloved actresses sits down for what should have been a warm, friendly chat, only to be met with a barrage of questions that cross every imaginable line? In just 35 seconds of barbed remarks, a morning television host managed to push Dame Judi Dench past her limit, creating one of the most uncomfortable and unforgettable moments in daytime television history. The studio lights were blinding that morning. Judi entered the set with her usual grace, smiling at the audience, composed and radiant. She'd done this routine countless times before. Light banter, a few laughs, maybe a charming anecdote about her latest film. Routine, predictable, safe. But what unfolded was anything but. Lorraine Kelly sat across from her, smiling wide as the cameras rolled. The applause faded. Judi adjusted her dress and crossed her legs, the picture of calm professionalism. But there was something in Lorraine's eyes, something sharp, almost predatory, that hinted this conversation wouldn't go as expected. "Dame Judi, welcome, welcome," Lorraine began, her cheerfulness just a little too polished. "Thank you, dear. It's lovely to be here," Judi replied, her warmth effortless. Then Lorraine leaned forward. "You've been acting for what, about 100 years now?" A few awkward chuckles rippled through the audience. Judi's smile faltered just slightly. "Not quite 100, she said with a polite laugh. "But yes, I've been very fortunate to work for many years." "Fortunate indeed," Lorraine said, her tone now carrying a quiet sting. "But let's be honest. At your age, how much longer can you really keep this up? I mean, aren't there younger actors who deserve the spotlight now?" The laughter stopped. You could feel the air tighten. Judi straightened her posture, her eyes sharpening. "Are you suggesting there's an age limit on passion? On creativity?" she asked. Lorraine waved a hand, dismissive. "Oh, don't be so sensitive. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You've had your time. Maybe it's time to step aside." "I wasn't aware acting was a relay race," Judi said, her tone cool but composed. "I do this because I love it, because I still have stories to tell." Lorraine smirked. "Stories to tell? Right. Speaking of stories, let's talk about your personal life. You've been married twice, haven't you?" Judi's eyes hardened. "I'd rather not discuss my personal relationships." "Oh, but the public wants to know," Lorraine pressed. "Your first husband passed away. Tragic, really. And then you remarried rather quickly, didn't you? Some people might call that moving on fast." The studio froze. Judi's hands gripped the armrests. "That is an incredibly disrespectful thing to say," she said, her voice trembling but steadying with every word. "My grief is not entertainment for your viewers." "You're a public figure," Lorraine shot back. "You don't get to pick and choose what people talk about. You put yourself out there. This comes with the territory." Judi's composure returned, steel beneath her calm. "There's a difference between being public and being preyed upon," she said. "What you're doing isn't journalism. It's cruelty." Lorraine rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. If you can't handle a few questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." The tension in the studio was palpable now. No one breathed. Judi took a final deliberate breath. "I've spoken with hundreds of journalists over my career," she said. "Some were probing, some challenging, but none so blatantly rude under the guise of honesty." "Oh, here we go," Lorraine muttered. "The Grand Dame routine. Just because you've got a title doesn't mean you're untouchable. Doesn't make you special." "I never claimed to be special," Judi replied, her voice calm but cutting. "I only expect basic decency, and you've shown none." Lorraine leaned back, folding her arms. "You're being overly dramatic, which I suppose makes sense given your profession. Always performing, always needing attention." Judi's jaw tightened. "You invited me here," she said softly but firmly. "I came in good faith to talk about my work, not to be humiliated on live television." Lorraine laughed, sharp and dismissive. If you think this is humiliation, you've lived a very sheltered life. I'm just being honest. Someone has to be. Judi held her gaze. Her next words were quiet, but they cut through the silence like a blade. Honesty without kindness isn't courage, Lorraine. It's just cruelty. Lorraine's smile vanished. The audience didn't move. Judi stood, adjusted her coat, and, without another word, walked off set. The applause never came. I think you've been coddled for far too long, Lorraine said, her smile tightening into something cold. Everyone bows to you, treats you like royalty because of who you are. Well, not here. Not on my show. Here we keep it real. Judi Dench shook her head slowly. This isn't real, Lorraine. This is manufactured conflict, engineered outrage for ratings. You're not keeping it real. You're creating a spectacle. Lorraine's eyes narrowed. Maybe you're just not as interesting as you think you are. Maybe I have to push a little to get anything worth airing. That was the breaking point. Judi stood, up, calmly, deliberately. She unclipped the small microphone from her dress and set it down on the chair beside her with surgical precision. The studio fell into stunned silence. Where do you think you're going? Lorraine asked, almost amused. I'm leaving, Judi said simply. I won't sit here and be treated with contempt. Oh, come on, Lorraine scoffed, gesturing dismissively. Don't be so dramatic. Sit down. We're not finished. Yes, Judi said firmly. We are. You're really going to walk off my show? Lorraine pressed, her tone slipping, panic creeping in now. Do you have any idea how this will look? Judi met her eyes without flinching. I know exactly how it will look, and I accept that. What I won't accept is another second of your disrespect. This is ridiculous, Lorraine snapped, rising from her seat. You're being completely unreasonable. I was just doing my job. Your job, Judi said, voice calm but cutting, is to interview people, not attack them. There's a difference, and you clearly don't understand it. Behind the cameras, producers started moving, gesturing frantically, whispering into headsets, signaling Lorraine to stop. She ignored them, her face tight with fury and disbelief. Fine, Lorraine said loudly. Walk off then. Run away. Show everyone what a coward you are. Judi paused mid-step. She turned back slowly. Her voice was soft, but the words landed like thunder. Coward? You think standing up for myself is cowardice? No, Lorraine. Cowardice is hiding cruelty behind a smile and calling it journalism. Lorraine's voice hardened. I think you've spent so long being treated like royalty that you've forgotten what it's like to be challenged. There's a difference between being challenged and being bullied, Judi replied. And what you've done here today is bullying, plain and simple. Oh, bullying, Lorraine scoffed. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? No, Judi said, unwavering. You've questioned my age, my career, my personal life, even my grief. You've implied I'm too old, too fragile, too irrelevant. You've done it all under the guise of honesty, but there's nothing honest about cruelty. Lorraine folded her arms. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Judi's reply was quiet but searing. I've been in the kitchen my entire life, Lorraine. I've faced heat that would break you, but I don't have to stand here and let you burn me for sport. You're making this into such a big deal, Lorraine said, her voice rising. It's just television. It's just a chat. Why are you being so difficult? Because you made it difficult, Judi said. From the moment I sat down, you were looking for conflict, pushing for a reaction. Well, congratulations. You got one. I'm leaving. You'll regret this, Lorraine said sharply. People will call you difficult. A diva. Judi gave her a small, sad smile. Let them. I'd rather be called difficult than stay where I'm not respected. She turned and walked toward the exit. At first, the audience was frozen, unsure whether to clap or stay silent. Then, one by one, people began to applaud. It started softly, scattered and uncertain, but grew louder with each passing second. Soon half the room was on its feet. Lorraine's face flushed red. "Oh, wonderful," she muttered bitterly into her mic. "Give her a standing ovation for storming off. That makes perfect sense." But Judi didn't look back. She walked off the set with quiet dignity. Head high, step steady, grace intact. As she reached the edge of the stage, a young producer hurried up, breathless. "Dame Judi, please," she said. "Can we talk? Maybe start over?" Judi stopped and looked at her gently. "I appreciate that truly. But what happened out there wasn't an accident. It was a choice, and now I'm making mine." "But the show," the producer began. "We still have 20 minutes left." "Then I suggest your host learn how to fill that time without tearing people down," Judi said kindly. "I'm sorry you're caught in this, but I won't be part of it." Back on set, Lorraine tried to pull herself together. She turned to the camera, forcing a brittle smile. "Well, that was unexpected," she said. "I suppose some people just can't handle a little frank discussion. We'll be right back after the break." The red light on the camera blinked off. Lorraine's smile dropped instantly. She looked around, panicked. The audience was murmuring, some shaking their heads, others rising from their seats. And for the first time that morning, Lorraine Kelly looked like the one under interrogation. One woman in the front row suddenly stood up, her voice shaking with anger. "That was disgraceful," she shouted. "You should be ashamed of yourself." Lorraine's face stiffened. She tried to ignore it, to brush it off with her trademark smile. But the murmur in the crowd grew louder. "You were horrible to her," another voice called out. "She deserved better. How could you speak to Dame Judi Dench like that?" The noise swelled, an audience turning, live and unscripted. A producer rushed onto the stage, voice low but furious. "What were you thinking, Lorraine?" he hissed. "You just drove off one of the most respected people in the country." "I was trying to make good television," Lorraine said, defensive, trembling slightly. "By attacking her? By insulting her?" the producer snapped. "That's not television. That's cruelty." Lorraine's hands began to shake. For the first time, the weight of what had just happened started to register. She was being too sensitive, she said weakly. "No," the producer said firmly. "You were being too harsh, and now we've got a massive problem." Meanwhile, in her dressing room, Judi sat quietly, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She lowered herself into a chair, exhaling slowly. She had never walked off a live show before, not once, but she had also never been treated with such contempt. There was a knock on the door. "Come in," she said softly. Her assistant entered, face pale with concern. "Are you all right?" Judi nodded slowly. "I am, and I think it was the right thing to do." "It absolutely was," her assistant said firmly. "What she did out there was appalling. Everyone's talking about it already." "Are they?" Judi asked, calm but curious. "The audience is posting online," her assistant said. "They're on your side, completely." Judi sighed. "I didn't do it for sides. I did it because I couldn't stay." "I know," her assistant said gently. "But people see that. They understand." Back on set, the commercial break was ending. Lorraine sat rigid in her chair, touching up her makeup with trembling hands. The producer leaned into her earpiece. "You need to address this, Lorraine. When we're back on air, you need to say something." "Explain what?" Lorraine snapped quietly. "That I asked a few questions and she couldn't handle them?" "You need to apologize," the producer said flatly. Lorraine turned to glare at him. "Apologize? For what? For doing my job? For being cruel?" he said bluntly. "Because that's what you were." The red light on the camera blinked on. Lorraine straightened, forced a smile, and looked into the lens. "Welcome back," she said, her voice tight, brittle. "As you saw, Dame Judi Dench chose to leave our conversation early. I want to make it clear that I have enormous respect for her and her remarkable career." Even as she spoke, the words rang hollow. The audience wasn't buying it. The damage was already done. Everyone watching at home had seen it. The line crossed, the dignity tested. The moment Lorraine Kelly lost control of her own show, they had seen a host push too far, and an icon refuse to bend. They had seen dignity triumph over spectacle. In her dressing room, Judi gathered her things quietly. She didn't watch the rest of the broadcast. She didn't need to. She knew she had done the right thing. She had drawn a line. She had said enough. And in doing so, she had reminded everyone watching that respect is not optional, that kindness is strength, and that being a public figure does not mean surrendering your humanity. Her assistant helped her into her coat. "Ready to go?" Judi nodded. "Ready." They walked through the quiet back corridors of the studio, avoiding the chaos near the main stage. As they passed a monitor, Judi caught a glimpse of Lorraine still on screen, voice strained, face pale, scrambling to salvage her reputation. Judi didn't feel angry. She didn't even feel vindicated. She just felt tired. Tired of having to defend herself, tired of having to justify her worth, tired of the constant intrusion masquerading as curiosity. But beneath the fatigue, she felt something stronger. Pride. Pride that she had stood up. Pride that she had walked away. Pride that she hadn't let the moment reduce her to anything less than herself. When they reached the exit, a few crew members stood waiting. They began to clap softly, hesitant at first, then louder, until the hallway filled with applause. A young camera operator stepped forward. "Dame Judi," he said quietly. "What you did in there. That took real courage." Judi smiled, gentle but firm. "Thank you," she said. "But it shouldn't take courage to expect basic respect. That should be the baseline." The young man nodded. "You're right. It should be." Judi stepped outside into the cool London air. The street was calm, ordinary. Life carried on as usual. But something inside her felt different. She had proven something. Not just to Lorraine, not even to the audience, but to herself. That there are lines that must not be crossed, and that sometimes the most powerful statement a person can make is to simply walk away. The interview that was meant to last an hour had ended in 15 minutes. What was meant to celebrate a legendary career had become a lesson in grace under fire. But in those 15 minutes, the world had witnessed something unforgettable. Dignity refusing to bow to humiliation. Grace standing tall against cruelty. As Judi's car pulled away from the studio, she looked back one last time. She thought of Lorraine, still talking, still trying to explain, and Judi felt no hatred, only pity, because Lorraine had been handed a rare gift that morning, a chance to sit across from someone extraordinary, someone with decades of stories and wisdom to share. And she had thrown it away. She had chosen conflict over connection, ratings over respect. And though the moment would be remembered, it would not be for the reasons she'd hoped. Judi leaned back in her seat, eyes closed, calm at last. She had done the right thing. She knew it in her bones, and that knowledge was worth more than any interview, any applause, any fleeting fame. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that truly matters is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and know you stood for something. And Judi Dench could live with that. She could live with it very well indeed.